Thanks, Hilton. Last night, Harold Parkendorf was saying that there should be some investigation into the broadcasting regulator. Surely, David, with this little gift that Vukozake decided to give to the transport minister, someone should go and look at those 400 million rands worth of contracts that they have with the Department of Transport. Because we as taxpayers are paying for it.
We're paying for it, yeah.
But now the minister, because he's the minister, gets 2 cars from taxi operators and a R1 million Mercedes.
From contractors, yeah.
From the contractors who've got the 400 million.
It's a lovely place to do business in South Africa.
Oh, juicy, juicy. I think there's a job for Barry Sargent in there somewhere, I'm sure. David, the stock market generally?
It's strong. Another 2% up today. I think it's our 4th day in a row. Right across all sectors, buying coming in very, very strongly. I think the one sector that stood out today, and I would suggest that foreigners are involved in buying our construction shares, because Murray and Roberts up over 10%, Group 5 now. I don't know if you've got any news there. I couldn't find the source of it, but the nature of those gains suggests that it's offshore, because a lot of local reports are indifferent about construction companies at these levels. You know, you're not finding over-optimistic, positive reports, believing that they're really neutral at these levels. Why are you smiling?
I'm just thinking that if the construction of these contractors, Vukozake, can give away $1 million car to a minister, imagine what kind of profits they must be making.
Yeah.
And then you multiply that by a factor.
Yeah.
And you look at the construction companies.
They probably, as you say, flip these deals and just take a commission. I don't think they're actually involved in probably buying the equipment and actually digging the holes.
There's lots of investigation to be done into all of that. But anyway, Spoon de Belle has given his car back. A good bit of work by everybody else involved. Woodburn Stadium in Maritzburg. You could have found a more private place, perhaps, if you wanted to bribe him. And I guess they just wanted to say thank you. David, interesting point here. The DTI's Rob Davies, who I think is a communist, and the Economic Development Minister, Ebrahim Patel, who is definitely a trade unionist, are getting together to try and see if they can save frame textiles. Hopefully not with taxpayers' money. But what is interesting in this is they've brought to the party, they're talking to the union, not surprising, SACTWU, to Surdal, the company that owns it, and to the IDC. Now, today, the IDC got a loan of $50 million from the Chinese, who are probably the reason why the textiles are in trouble.
Exactly. So
it's
a very interesting, because you heard Johnny Copeland the other evening on Surdal.
Sure,
he says they've done what they can.
They're
the ones who pulled the plug. Eventually said, look, we can't support it. We've tried everything. And he's an ex-trade union or an ex...
I think Abraham used to work for Johnny Copeland at
they were all on the textile side. That's where they came from.
Yeah.
In fact, Patel's mother, I think, was worked in the factories. I think they've got a lot of problems there. I think, number one, the ethic also. By ethic, I think it's well known that most of the people only work 4 days a week. So I think there's a lot that they have to do.
But how's the dilemma of that? That you bring the IDC, the Industrial Development Corporation, to the party to try and rescue textiles through presumably some kind of subsidization, but the IDC is getting the money from the Chinese in the first place, which it might be channeling in there. It's a strange place we live in. And the other thing, David, just following up from yesterday, last night the Standard Bank head of home loans, Rob Katz, said he was trying to justify why poor people have to pay, instead of paying 6 rand or whatever it was, to 35 rand a month on their home loans. Well, one of our correspondents, Peter, sent me an email. He said he contacted Standard Bank when he saw this new 35 rand charge, and he was told, no, it doesn't apply to him because he's a prestige plan client. So it's only the poor guys who are getting nailed. What a PR nightmare. Talking about PR nightmares, Dave, what about Sasol? Another 62 million rand fine.
It just means they're digging deeper and deeper. I know that it happened a few years ago, but it doesn't say much for the culture that was there at the time. And it's very hard for them to defend at this level. And it's just one of many cases of anti-competitive behavior that we're starting to pick up in our business amongst the big ones.
Who didn't follow that. What happened was Sasol was initially levied with a fine of 188 million for anti-competitive practices in the fertilizer and phosphoric acid businesses, which was particularly galling to any South African because that pushes up food prices. They've now found more problems within. The deeper they dig, it seems, at Sasol, the more trouble they find. And they had to. They told the Competition Commission what they'd found, and their fine went up to another 62 million rand.
And Sasol shares went up today, but I mean it's. like
Go
all
figure.
commodities. But yeah, it doesn't reflect well on South African business. It's I think you've got to look deep into the culture of South African
That's
business.
why-
We've had. Remember, we used to have these competitions, mainly the compliance competitions and that. And we looked at a lot of companies. A lot of those companies have let us down. Tigers and so on, Sasol, etc.
Indeed, and quite interesting if you think of that on the one side, and then you look at what Rob Davies and Ibrahim Patel, why they don't trust business and why they think that perhaps there is another way. You've got to give them, to understand that that's where they're coming from. And although in the global scheme of things, it is a rather strange thing to be doing, when you come from that background, you've got to be asking
It's
questions.
not unique. It's just the level of it, because they're having problems in British Parliament. The Speaker of the House had to resign today for having allowed a lot of MPs to claim expenses like, there was a drain plug or cleaning out a moat in a country home. So, yeah, there's corruption, but it's the kind of levels, and it's the way that we actually clean it out.
But isn't it good that the media is uncovering all of these things?
Yeah.
From Spoon in
Yeah.
Ndebele to what's happening in the UK
I think
stuff
this
that's
is
happening
one
here.
thing. In fact, I think even Buffett said, he says that the newspapers, and it's a problem when you see the death of newspapers, because this is something that the newspapers do. They clean up business, they clean up government.
Well, I would argue against Mr. Buffett and say that a lot of these leaks are now coming through the internet.
Through the internet, through blogs.
Well,
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
people who
Yeah.
are working.
Yeah.
Like Peter says, where's Peter going to get that published in a newspaper? Just sends an email and says, hey, the poor people are paying
Well,
the higher
yeah.
fee, but we on
Yeah.
Prestige Plan at Standard Bank aren't.
But it's up to you as well. It's up to programs like this to expose what you can.
Peter Malari joins us. Now, you've had your problems over the years, Peter. Or over the years, I apologize.